Okay, we're here in Winchester, which is full of surprises, and without giving too much away, we're going to go around and do a tour of some of the historical sites you can see. So we start?
Indeed. Let's start.
So right now we are underneath the West Gate, which we tried to look at earlier, but it was closed, but it is open sometimes. And if we just go right down here, right underneath, you can see this was a prison, a very spooky prison.
It was indeed. It was actually, well, I'll tell you a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, don't spoil the surprise.
There is quite a well-known jailer here. That, of course, does for hauntings and a few bits of different activity.
But jailer's all we're going to tell you, right? So let's press on, there's loads to see. Right, where are we right now? We're at the top of the high street if you don't recognise it. Perhaps you've never been to Winchester before. If we have a look over that way, we're trying to avoid the random people. We've got a statue over there. Hang on, 2 seconds. We have to wait 2 seconds. There it is. Oh no, that's not it. Is that it? Yeah, it is. I can't even see what I'm looking at. It's fine, I can't even see. Okay, right, so let's keep moving on. We've got over there the West Gate. There we go, look at that. And some random drivers. Okay.
I was just going to say, for Statue overlooking the distance, it was actually built there to remember the victims of the plague.
And of course there were millions across the UK, well that's slightly exaggerating, thousands across the UK who died of the plague, which first hit in around 1340s, and in 1348 killed around 48% of Winchester, which is a staggering amount, but don't be fooled because it came around a few more times since then, 1600s and a little bit later on as well. In fact, it hasn't even got it, it's still around in some places.
Yes, indeed. Now, of course, Winchester was quite a fascinating place, I suppose, when the plague was about. And, of course, it got to a certain degree where people couldn't actually be buried inside the churchyard. So, of course, they didn't have the last rites and they had to be buried outside. Now, of course, one of the original aspects was for them to actually be buried on the market square, which, as you can imagine, no one really wanted people buried where they'd done their shopping. So, of course, they were buried outside the city.
This is very true. There is actually a cemetery not too far away, which is named after it. Right, we're going to stop here. Actually, we're going to go this way slightly. We're going to detour slightly. We're going to have a look at the Castle of Winchester. Now, we do need to tell you now, get ready for this because you are about to be amazed by the best castle you've ever seen.
It used to look really good.
Used to probably being quite an operative word there. Don't be fooled, it's not what's behind us. It is down there. See, you were excited, weren't you? So should we have a look? Oh, this could be dangerous. Don't do this at home if you're watching. It's a bad thing to do. Right, over there is the Castle of Winchester, which was a pretty big castle at one point. In fact, we know a fire took place here, and we can't tell you more than that because you have to come on the ghost tour to find out more. But what we do know, it's been there over 800 years. That's a long time, and it's seen much of the historical things that have happened right here in, which was the town of Winchester, now of course the city. And it goes without saying that years ago, this was the very capital of England. Now of course it's London, but you knew that, didn't you? And this part of the town has changed many times. And who's been here? Some pretty notable names?
Yes, quite a few. There's quite a few famous people. But of course, what have we got here that's really famous? Now we'll say it does involve a table.
Different ones to what you normally use on ghost hunts. The Great Hall of Winchester is just behind us. We'll turn around a little bit, let's have a look at it. Oh, there we go, right, good stuff. Right now, who in fact has been to this building? I can tell you, Henry VIII was in that very building at one point, and he met with the Emperor of Spain to try and negotiate things. Remember, Henry VIII was quite controversial, did loads of notable things in English history, and probably the most famous King of England, right?
Was indeed. He's very well known. Everywhere you go, of course, people are very fascinated by Henry VIII.
And what we should tell you is that those negotiations with Spain epically failed because we did go to war with them many times, including in the reign of Elizabeth I. But he met with the Emperor of Spain right here. But later in life, this was used to put people on trial. Now, a very famous man known as Sir Walter Raleigh was actually put on trial in this very building, and he was found guilty. He was sent to the Tower of London, where he actually got privileges, to say the least. He did get released, but then got put back in jail again, and well, that's what happens when you live in the times of the Tudors.
I think what we should do is let's take everyone to a spot. It's long on our ghost walks, but we don't normally tell this story.
Even I'm not sure what that is.
It involves Romans, and it involves them walking through one of the walls.
That's all he's going to tell me. Right, we're going to go down some stairs right now. I'll tell you, if you've been on a ghost tour, these are quite spooky themselves. And it takes us down to the law courts, where I can tell you there normally is another story about ghosts. That's why we do a ghost tour. But we can't tell you what those stories are, because what we don't want to do is give away too much history. What we do want to do, too much about the ghost tours. What we do want to do is tell you a bit of history. So as we go down these stairs right now, you can see the law courts are just by James. There they are. They look very scary, do they? But they have got some notable things that have happened there. As we crack on down, we're going to walk past this drunken cone here. You can see it. It's obviously had a bit too much to drink last night. I didn't look at it. It's had a bad day. Right. That's nothing to do with the history of Winchester.
While we are walking along, one of the things I find interesting about the ghost tours, of course, me and Andrew, we act and we
and they're amazing
for characters, but for people that actually come along on them, they actually tell us more ghost stories of experience they've actually had in the locations. There's one story about Cece's, there's one about Winchester Theatre, the Royal Oak, and even some of the local shops, which of course all adds to that effect.
And what we should tell you while we talk about the Royal Oak is that our ghost tours, they start inside the Royal Oak. In fact, they start inside the cellar room, which is the oldest bar in England. Now, it was actually a present originally from King Ethelred, not Alfred, King Ethelred, who gave it to his wife Emma. And next door to it as well, which James sort of mentioned a little bit earlier on, God Begot House as well was used. Now remember, Winchester's full of history, and one other notable event took place during the Civil War with King Stephen, where the only way to stop the Civil War, believe it or not, was someone starting a fire, and it ravaged through the town of Winchester and leading to many people's deaths. That's all we can tell you again. You need to come on the ghost tour to find out more about that. As we go down now, I'm pretty sure that James may be at the point where he's going to tell us about that ghosty story. I could be right here, couldn't I?
You are indeed.
See, don't have to be psychic to know. And remember, what you're seeing right now may not look historical, but during the war, a lot of these buildings were damaged by the Blitz. And so it meant, not just because of that, but also because things have changed over time, fashions and whatever, they've had to change things too. James, where are we right now?
Okay, here we are. We are only in one of the side streets, and if you look around us, nothing really particularly looks that old or significant. But anyway, going back to the supernatural side of things, here is where normally Roman soldiers are actually seen, and they tend to walk through here and walk down just there.
They do. True story though. I've got a bit of a worry about this because in there it says road is closed and I don't know how many people drive through a glass window.
Believe it or not, that is a part where the Roman soldiers are supposed to walk through.
And I've also heard it happens as well at the Green Man pub not too far away from here, in the cellar there as well. So I've heard that from quite a few people on the tour.
Funny you should say that with the Roman soldiers. It's actually reported that they're more or less, where they're walking doesn't match up to where the pavement is today. So could be something significant there.
We're gonna. Oh no! Are we gonna go? Oh, he's gonna let us go. Oh God! There's more cars coming. This is not what you should be doing at home, kids. Thank you very much. We have to say thank you because we're running across the road. That's not what you should do at home if you saw that. Okay, so we're moving on down through Winchester. Again, let's tell you about some of the fascinating history that's happened right here. James mentioned earlier about the Theatre Royal. Now, you should know, by the way, that it's considered good luck for a theatre to be haunted here in the UK. And that's why every theatre happens to be haunted. Whether they are or not is a different story. But here in Winchester, there is a very good story about the Theatre Royal, and we can back that up with people who've been on the tour who work in the theatre themselves. Now, who it's haunted by? Yeah, we're not going to tell you that.
There is one thing I will add is when we spoke to people now working in the theatre, they have actually said, even still today, there's some chairs that will actually go down by themselves. They don't know why and they don't know the reasons behind it. I know you could say it's old chairs and stuff like that, but there's some spooky occurrences that they can just not explain.
And ain't the cheap seats either in the gods. It's the expensive ones at the front. And something to do with the Simpkins brothers, who were basically responsible for the building of that theatre.
Now, we are in quite a famous place and one of my favourite stories, but sadly, as Andrew said, we can't actually tell you that. Only thing I am going to tell you
It's called Hammond's Passage. What's that about?
is this story.
Moving on there, James.
Yeah, this story, we actually told it on the ghost tour, and one of the people actually got very spooked, came over very white, and he actually said he worked in a part of the building, and many late at night, he could actually hear banging and clanging of chains, which of course, I can't tell you what it is, but it actually fits into our story.
That's all we're going to tell you. Like we said, we'll tell you history, but we can't tell you about the ghost tour. What we can tell you is that building that James was talking about right there was the home of the Hampshire Chronicle, which was, or apparently is, England's longest running paper. Well, that's true or not, I don't know. They're not located in the building now because they've moved to other premises, but they still continue to print to this very day. So pretty significant building right here in Winchester. Right, we're going to continue down now as we look at Wine Utopia. Look at that. There's a few spirits in there. And someone had to say it. As we move on down, you can see we're going through some kind of oldie-woldy looking roads, I suppose. Right, we're going to squeeze on around here because there we go, right. And we're going to move on around here. Just keep going. Looking at the apothecary house. That's quite a significant thing to tell you about. You said quite a lot of those days where they would sell or they would give you potions like leeches and things to make you feel better if you were ill, which did absolutely nothing for you, to be fair. Now we're down a rather another spooky alley. Look at this. Whoa! What's spooky about it? We've lost James. Oh, there he is.
I know, I'm here.
He's still here. He hasn't run away. Right. James, what we should tell you about is that this floor level has changed. Where you're standing right now, we're walking right now, is not the original floor level. It's changed over time. And you'll find out how that impacts things on the ghost tours. All we can tell you right now.
I will say there is a spooky story to do with that alley as well, but once again, I don't want to tell you too much. However, I can say we are outside of Eclipsing now. Now, I know...
Oh, I'm trying to get myself out of the way. Here we go. Bend down. Here we go. Oh, we got it.
Now, all I'll say about the Eclipsing, of course, there is a famous story out there. And, of course, there's many spooky stories attached to the Eclipsing. Some people even say it's one of the most haunted pubs in England. Of course, that is debatable, depending on who you ask. But, of course, people do get scared by it.
I love this part of the Winchester because we're not too far from the cathedral now, and you can see some pretty cool looking, just behind James there, it's pretty cool looking, what do we call it? Headstones. Headstones, not tombstones, headstones. If you do come on the tour later, watch out for bins because some people quite like them. And so let's have a look around. We go. Some trees. There we go. There's no significance about trees, but it's good to see some trees.
There's only one story I will share with you, and this is the only one you're getting from me, which we do mention on our ghost tours. Yeah, only one. And that is quite a famous one, and that is to do with a limping monk. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is you'd naturally think ghosts are more seen at night time. However, with this character, the limping monk, he's actually been seen more during the daytime than at night.
Yes. There he is now. Oh, we missed him. Should have been quicker.
However, I will add, with the cathedral itself, there's been many different photographs and many different stories of monks being seen, and there's even a famous photograph out there as well where it does appear that there's a black mist in the form of a monk.
Okay, so Google. Now, if you listen, you get some ghostly voices.
Let's just
Oh no, that's not ghosty. That's
Cathedral.
that's the.
Yeah, take
Can you sing like that?
No.
It's like songs of praise, isn't it?
Right, there you go, Andrew's going to give it a go.
No, it does sound
We
pretty
tried,
impressive.
didn't we? We tried.
It didn't work. Now, let's have a look at the cathedral because it's there thanks to one man who saved it called William Walker, who spent many hours underneath there, because there's water underneath there, to save it. And it has the longest nave of a cathedral in Europe. It's not the biggest cathedral because that's still being built in Barcelona. And notice the ways it's still being built, it's still taking time. One day it'll be completed. Right, we're going to go around the cloisters.
Yes.
Love a good cloister. Right, let's go around. James is contemplating what he's going to do tonight for dinner.
Not quite yet.
All right then. Now, it's actually quite windy around here. It's always windy around by the cathedral. I never really know why. Maybe you know why. Why it is. There's got to be a reason, I suppose. Right, cloisters then. We're around part of the side of the cathedral. What are we doing? Showing the front. Oh,
Yeah, look how spooky that looks.
now imagine what's stuck in the dark. Yeah, that's what you were going to say, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally.
Ooh, weird minds. Right, okay, now usually it's nicer in here at Christmas time. I've been told that round here somewhere, and I could be wrong, is one of the oldest colleges in England. Did you hear that scary voice? That was a ghost. Did you hear it? It was screaming.
Yeah, it's
For more!
The ghost.
Oh, okay.
So, while we're walking, I know
we're certainly not running.
talking about supernatural and everything else. Andrew, I've got to ask, what is your favourite story or a favourite occurrence that has happened to you?
What, just generally in Winchester or anywhere?
Preferably Winchester, but
Oh God, I have to think about it. See, well, I've been to Winchester many times, I suppose, over the years. The only place I've really been to overnight is actually Winchester Theatre. I did a ghost hunt in there back in 2005, maybe? What's that, 14 years ago? That's a long time ago, 14 years ago. So what I can tell you is I didn't see that whole chair thing you mentioned. He's running away.
no, it's just
But we did have some weird occurrences, but whether we could explain or not is a different matter. But that was, it was a good few years ago now.
okay. That's good.
But theatres, good luck to be haunted, apparently. Okay, now what we can also tell you is as well, that's not a ghosty cyclist. Whilst we're looking around at the impressiveness of this cathedral, I mean, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
After the bump is that we do know that it was a very unlucky man, if you want to call him that, called Thomas Bembridge, who was actually refused to change religion back at the time of Elizabeth I. Remember, she's a Tudor monarch, and let's face it, you don't want to upset a Tudor monarch, right? Oh, speaking of which, did you know a Tudor monarch also got married in the cathedral? It's a true story.
However,
Queen Mary I, Henry VIII's daughter, of course, that's why she was the Queen, got married here to King Philip of Spain, right in this cathedral. True story, got to tell you that.
oh, of course, I would say, while you're saying that, and you have already mentioned Henry VIII earlier.
I am.
Of course, it was believed that Henry VIII actually got married to Anne Boleyn in Marwell Hall.
I've heard, wait a minute.
I know, it's just...
Oh, it's okay. Before we were gated off then, but we're not. Yes, this could be true. We don't actually know. We do know that Anne Boleyn was, she managed to get Henry VIII to agree to get rid of the Catholic Church. We know that much for sure. But she was then later beheaded, so it didn't quite work in her favour. Now, her daughter did, however, become queen later on. We're talking about Queen Elizabeth I this time. And that was, the time when Thomas Bembridge apparently was the only person to be burnt here in Winchester, was burnt alive at the stake. I didn't even smell it now, to be fair.
Yeah.
It just smelled quite funny around here.
I'm guessing someone's having a barbecue or bonfire.
That's what we're going to have later on in it. And now, he refused to change religion. And like I said before, we went through a very, very strange stage here in England at that time, because Henry VIII wanted to get rid of the Catholic Church and successfully did that by bringing in the Church of England and making himself the head of it. But then we know that when Queen Mary, his first daughter, who then became, well, she didn't become the queen next because his son became the king, but he didn't last very long, King Edward. When Queen Mary came on the throne, she then brought Catholicism back into England, mainly because her mother was as well. Then when Elizabeth I came, she tried to get rid of it again. If you refuse to change religion, you got burnt at the stake. And that's what happened to Thomas Bembridge, who got befriended in a jail, got caught not wanting to convert religions, and he's burnt alive at the stake. More about that on our ghost tour, of course. We keep telling that because that's what's going to happen.
Yes. Shall we take everyone to Saxon tombs?
Ooh,
Now,
tombs.
I actually find the Saxon tombs quite
Watch your head.
fascinating. The main reason being is, out of all the times I came to Winchester when I was younger, it's a very easy place to actually walk by and never know if they're there. Main reason being is, it's just down like a walkway. So,
It kind of is actually, is it? Because when
Yeah.
they did the Guildhall, they tried to do some renovation work to it. They found these tombs, and so we're going to have a little look at it because, like James said, many people in fact come on the tours and say they've never seen it before. Now, what we should tell you about as well, when we talk about Queen Elizabeth I, is Mary Queen of Scots. Have you heard of Mary Queen of Scots?
have indeed.
Did you know she was quite an interesting figure, although she had nothing to do with Winchester, but she was obviously it's a very strange story, this, because if you know anything about her, she wanted to take over the throne in England. It didn't work, but the very first person who became the king of both Scotland and England was her son, King James. There we go. True story. You hear about King James on the Portsmouth Ghost Tour, of course. We've got to
Yes.
link these things,
See,
right?
I will say, the strange thing is, doing all these ghost tours that we do, is it's amazing how each sort of place sort of interlinks with each other. And it's a bit like Winchester links with our Windsor tour.
Well, Henry VIII
Portsmouth
has
links
been here.
with Winchester, and it's quite fascinating. It's almost like, well, like I said, they all interlink in one way or another. And here we go. Here,
Is our last stop, by the way. We're going to have a look at. We're not going to tell you too much about it, but James, tell us what can we expect before we give them the sneak preview of it.
I think they look quite spooky, in all honesty. I do think it's a very easy place to walk past and not actually realise they're there. Now, I think looking at it, I suppose being a tomb, it's naturally scary and spooky in that aspect. But take a look and see what you think.
Let's have a look. Have a little look around there. There we go. Spooky, eh?
Yes.
Now, what you might be able to see as well down there is the foundations of the brickwork, which actually were, I believe, the foundations of the original building. So that's why you can see different colours down there, doorways and things. So pretty interesting stuff. We've done a good little tour.
Yes, indeed. I will say there is a spooky story to go with the Saxon tombs, but you know what I'm going to say. We can't actually tell you that one, but if you come on our ghost tour, you will find out about that story.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. And don't forget, if you want to join us on our tour, you need to go to our website, supernaturaltoursandevents.com or winchesterghosttours.com as well. Don't forget, we also do ghost tours in Windsor, Portsmouth, Southampton, New Forest, and we do ghost hunts too.
We do indeed. So please do join us.
We'll see you soon.